Let's go behind the mask.
Welcome back to another special edition of the Behind the Mask podcast. I am your host, Takeo Spikes, joined alongside by my co-host, floating around somewhere out there.
What's good, man? Your favorite plus size model, Tutan Reyes in the building. I was about to say your player plus size model, man. Maybe I should switch it to that. I like that.
I don't know. Your old lady might beat your ass for that.
Facts.
Listen, we don't jump right into this one, bro, because it's not too many times. We've had several award winners, Heisman Trophy winners. We've had guys who have been all-pro, MVPs. But this one is a little different. Our next guest, too, Lambert Award winner, Buckets Award winner for the best linebacker in college.
I'm gonna get me some today.
Also a Pro Bowler. Last but not least, he was all-pro.
In only his second season, Arrington has already garnered Pro Bowl honors and become one of the league's most feared hitters.
One of the 80 greatest Washington football team players that ever played the game. Man, y'all give it up for my player partner, my dog, LaVar Arrington.
Yeah. Thank you.
LA in the building.
What's going on?
Hey, man, it's good to get you on, man. We finally caught up with you. You know, you on LA, you East Coast. Sometimes I see you on Capitol Hill advocating for player safety, man.
Well,
is there anything that you don't do?
Yeah, the BTM podcast. I've been waiting to get on it. Y'all didn't took long. Yeah, right.
Shots fired.
It's all right. I know Tube been telling you to get me on. You've been saying, we get to him. So we finally done got here. So let's go ahead and kick up some dust, create some smoke, man. That's what we're here to do. LB, you know.
That's right.
LB.
Absolutely, bro. And so we talk about kick up some dust and kick up some smoke. Now, bro, I got to tell you this. Now, we don't have plenty of interactions with each other, but I got to give you props. And this happened a long time ago, but it's one of the most memorable plays that I ever saw. Everybody has a play, I think, that kind of stays with them and what people know them for. The LaVar Leap against Illinois back in '98, bro. Like, was that a blitz or was it just straight instinct? Now, I know you know, go ahead and feel free to put as much sauce on it as you want to.
It was a blitz, actually. It was an A-gap blitz. You know, the cool thing about that situation, I had did it a whole bunch of times before. That it just wasn't on such a big stage. But, you know, what happened to KO was it was Illinois. The film review said that on short yardage, if they come rushing out of the huddle, they on first down. It's pretty much as simple as that. They came rushing out of the huddle. It was 4th and inches. It's Big Ten football. It's in State College. They needed a first down to get back into this game, and I saw the guard. It was Luke Buckets, actually Dick Buckets' nephew. I saw him heavy on his hands. He had no coloration in his knuckles, which means he was heavy down on that hand. So he was coming off and he was going to go low and hard. So I was going to go for the quarterback. So I'm thinking I'm about to go time this up. It's first down. I'm going to get in there and hit this quarterback for a loss. We're going to go ahead and get this ball back. He hands it off. So that was a little bit of complicated adjustment and adaptation in the middle of the air, but it worked out enough where I flew past the quarterback and actually hit the running back as well. So sometimes it works out the way it's supposed to, sometimes it doesn't, but that happened to be one of those ones that did, and I'm glad it did because all the Penn State community and all the Penn State fans remember one play if they don't remember nothing else, and it's that LA Leap player.
Bruh, that was I remember watching that, and we came back in the locker room and we was like, who in the hell is this freak? See ball, get ball, bro. And I was like, damn. Yeah.
Everybody definitely remembered that, man. And another thing I remember too, class of 2000, you went second overall to the Redskins, followed by my homie Chris Sanders.
Indeed.
That class was dope. But then the offseason, All-Star game was there. So you were in DC, Chocolate City, that whole rookie year. Talk about what that was like, getting into the league, going straight to DC, and what was life like in your rookie year back in 2000.
Bro, and it was still Chocolate City back then. It's a little different now, but back then in 2000, Michael Jordan had came to the Wizards. It was, the football team had just did well the year before. They had brought in Deion Sanders and Bruce Smith, a host of other players to the football team. It was pretty exciting. Then All-Star being there, so having the home field advantage is just, I don't know, man. You almost get desensitized to it being DC because it becomes your home. But shouts out to Mark Barnes and Abdul and all the people, Taz, all those guys, Eric from VIP list, EVIP. There's so many people that show so much love. Kirk Bone from All Days, it's driven by clothes and stuff like that. So you got shooters, you got All Days, you got there's a few others, but now it's Eat. Eat is the deal in DC, but it's so culturally driven in DC. Hanging out there was a ton of fun. There was a ton of trouble, but thank goodness
no social media.
No social media. So none of my crazy moments ever made it to the surface of life. So it was good. It was a great time. Those were some golden. Mike Tyson was still living in the area at that time.
Oh my goodness, y'all was acting a punk.
Listen, I used to come up there and kick it with them, man. Just to go. I think it was Club Love back then, man. Goodness, man. I never partied like that in my life. So definitely some good times, man.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of the mega clubs. That was the whole era of the mega club. So it was, Dream
came after that, right?
Well, Dream was love, before right? Dream had to go turn to Love.
Love, yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Shout out to Taz, though. Shout out to Taz for real.
Taz, what up, boy?
Mark and Taz, yeah, man.
Yeah,
now
man.
They at the park. It's the park now. I think the park is still going, so they downsized, but still doing well.
Well, it sounds like I might need to make a trip up to the park.
Well, if you do, I'm gonna come check you. We're gonna come meet up and go by. We're gonna go run the streets together.
Go by.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fellowship with each other. But we talk about the culture, man. Like the culture of like what DC, what it stood for, how it brought people together, especially people of color. Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at the Washington football team, and you see they brought in Jason Wright to handle all the business affairs. Mm-hmm. Ron Rivera from the head coaching staff. You look at how this entire culture has changed going all the way back from when you played with them. Do you believe in it, and do you think it's a good start moving forward?
From what I can see, I think it's a good start. It's never been a question of really who they hire in a sense of, they've had black coaches on the team before. I've never seen there be a discrimination in terms of who gets hired as coaches or against players. Hiring Jason Wright was amazing. I think maybe we can all look at it and say, maybe there's obvious reasons why the hire was made. I could care less why the hire was made. They made it. And I think he's the right person for the job. So that, I had an opportunity to have a couple offline conversations with him and just kind of talk through some of the things, some of my experiences, for what it's worth. A lot of people think that I have hard feelings towards the team and towards the organization. My hard feelings are really just directed towards one person and one person only, and that would be the owner of the team. So, and looking at where they're at right now, I've never wished ill upon him. I've never wished ill upon the team. And I've always said, if you fix the culture within yourself, you can fix the culture of your extended dealing. So your business, your personal life, you can fix a lot of things by fixing yourself. And I think that a classic ill that's been taking place with the Washington football team for all these years since he's taken over the team is basically the mentality and the way the culture has been built around the way that he treats people. So it's kind of, if that is changing, I haven't been around it. I don't go there. I don't visit. So I have no idea what the current environment looks like. But from all reports that I've gotten, all conversations that I've had with people that are still there, it sounds as though there has been a true shift in the way that they're doing things at the park. And if that's the case, then I hope that it works, and I hope that they're consistent with it, because you and I both know, I mean, you were in Cincinnati, so I know you got a great idea of what that's like. When you play for an organization that isn't operating at a high level, everybody suffers, and you see the result of it on the football field, but, it extends far beyond what's taking place out there on the gridiron. So, hopefully they have made that shift, and hopefully he's, humbled himself enough to actually be a person that can communicate in a way that breeds ownership over people doing what it is that they need to do. It's one thing to have somebody who's doing their job. It's another thing to have somebody who takes ownership over the job that they're doing. And I think that's something that has been, lacking in that organization for the time that he's taken it.
And you're talking about the results on the field. The Washington football team, not off to the start they wanted to be off to. Dwayne Haskins, first-round pick last year, benched already. Bad start, benched already. Do you think they've given him enough time to develop before pulling the plug on him?
You and I know that the NFL is a dirty game, man, and it's a quick game. It moves fast. Yeah. The conventional answer, the conventional wisdom answer is no, he hasn't had enough time because he hasn't had enough development. But you look at the situation he came into with Gruden and how that ended and how it went. Gruden not having very fond words to use. And speaking of Dwayne Haskins, that's one of those things you want to sit there and say the culture has changed, and we just talked about that. But then you see something like that take place, and then you hear the way that they're speaking on Dwayne Haskins as if he wasn't even qualified to even be a draft pick, like a high draft pick, or how, he was a system quarterback in college. And, I come from the 10. So I know how hard it is to play at a high level and be a quarterback in the Big Ten Conference. And for him to do what he did and accomplish what he accomplished there at Ohio State, he earned the right to be able to be drafted high and get that opportunity. I just don't see the development in him. And it's always going to fall on the player, on the shoulders of the player, and the excuses or the bus language, whatever it may be that's used. I don't think it's fair in this circumstance, but NFL and fair aren't synonymous with one another, right? It's a produce or get out the way business. And unfortunately, he hasn't been producing. But it's interesting because the team hasn't been producing either. So it's like that's one of the positions in Washington that is always publicized in a way like politics. And they make moves on it because that's the one position where you try to appease your fan base by making a move. So I think it was a premature benching, but we'll have to wait and see how it plays out.
I think I just want to comment on that too, because I think it was a little premature taken into consideration when you look at a big picture. NFC East, the Eagles lead the division now.
With one win.
With one win. You know what I'm saying? So and if you look at
the 2 wins, they just got the second. Was it 2?
Yeah.
1 or 2 wins. I mean, either way, that's
one win.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then you look at who's coming in second, who's coming in third. The Cowboys and the Redskins, and so last place pulling up the rear.
Washington team, TKO.
Yeah, Washington football team.
I was just trying to see if you was gonna catch it.
I know.
Yeah,
so what you were doing.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, so I think it was a little premature, but at the end of the day, I agree with you because when you look at a big picture, that's the one position that, hey, sometimes they get too much credit when they win, and I think they get too much credit when they lose too on the blame game. But that's the scapegoat position, so I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, we bench all the quarterbacks in NFC East, right? If we're basing it off of productivity and wins and losses, they should all be benched. So, I mean, but that's the game, it's organization by organization. One group is choosing to stay with their guy, and another group is trying to figure out if they want to go in a different direction. I think it hurts the kid ultimately. His development, his confidence, where does he go from now? If they come back to him, how is his mental mindset and what is he going, you chop his legs out from under him to be the leader of the team by doing this. So if you put him back in there and he still continues to struggle, it's just one of those things. He's not in the best of situations right now, unfortunately.
And we're talking about quarterbacks. Obviously, we've seen several quarterbacks that haven't lived up to the billing. The funny part, Aaron Rodgers kept it 100% real. He said, a lot of times, down years for me are career years
for others.
For most quarterbacks.
I sometimes laugh when people talk about, down years for me, because a lot of times down years for me are career years for most quarterbacks.
You can't keep it no more real than that. So how are these coaches and GMs not seeing that when it comes to a player like a Dwayne Haskins or something? Even Cam Newton in the offseason, you know what I'm saying? They're putting up numbers, but you're giving other quarterbacks that are definitely less talented, less productive on the field, you're giving them chances and contracts.
Yeah, I mean, everybody looks at the Carson Wentz contract. They look at the Jared Goff contract, and a lot of times it's justified to say, how do you not pay some of these other quarterbacks if you're basing it off of some of these guys that we just spoke on? But, it's interesting because coming into the season, there were some lists that Aaron Rodgers was left off of on being one of the top quarterbacks in the league. He was written off. It was all but mess up, and here comes Love. When he's prepared to play, they said all the right things as if they were supporting him, but you got to know, and the harsh reality of this sport is certain moves you can't deny, you can't get out of the way of what it is, the message that's being sent. To use your first round draft pick and to trade up to do it and to take a quarterback in the first round, that's it. Aaron, you're on the clock. And so right now, I think what we're seeing out of Aaron Rodgers is someone who is really, really, he's pissed off, and rightfully so. You're sitting here trying to get rid of me and trying to wind my career up and create a new start because you're a new head coach. But you should be looking at how you can have success with me, not without me, and to just almost basically embarrassing, by doing that. You didn't talk to him about the draft pick. You just went out and you did it. And you heard him saying, look, they one game away from going to the Super Bowl. Yeah. I mean, you're one game away from going to the Super Bowl, and I needed some weapons. Get me, this was one of the deepest drafts with receivers. You going to go get a quarterback? So coming into the season, I think his play is definitely an outward extension of what he's feeling on the inside. I don't give a good mother F. And I'm taking names. I'm claiming idols. I'm claiming titles, and I'm gonna just speak on it. It's like you could like the approach or you could hate the approach. For me, the way he had to sit through, what took place this offseason and the uncertainties surrounding COVID, I just think he's feeling himself, and it raises the stakes because I love watching when dudes jump out there like that. I love watching it to see if they can maintain it. There's still a lot of season left, and there's still a lot of things that can happen. But for him to have injuries, not having Devontae out there with him right now, and he's still just doing his thing like that, Aaron Rodgers is playing on a different level right now, and he's telling you about it. And sometimes I like that.
Oh, I love it. And this is the thing, because I know he kind of got upset. A lot of people, he felt like his words was taken out of context. And to be completely honest, let's be real.
Who cares?
Who cares? Number one. And two, most people don't see white quarterbacks come out and be that open.
That bold. Oh,
That
man.
bold.
That's bold. Yeah.
Typically most people would say, that's something Cam Newton would say. But I love Aaron Rodgers because he's very outspoken and he's going to let you know exactly what he thinks. Do you think he was wrong in that nature in the way that he delivered that?
No, because he was being genuine. And if you see the interview, he's doing it with Hawk and McAfee.
McAfee.
Bro, like it's like what we're doing right now. It's a locker room conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if it was a regular group of reporters, I get it. Like you got to be on your straight and narrow. Well, this is what's going to happen. I'm Aaron Rodgers, and I like getting the play calls and doing it this way and doing it that way. And you got to make sure that you prepare yourself to. Man, we locker room. Aaron was up in his seat like this. They was like, hey, Rod. They've been out here disrespecting you, man. How you feeling?
Keep it at 100.
Well, what's difficult for most is super easy for me, and we'll just keep it there. I mean, he was chilling.
Yeah.
He was looking like Negan off of Walking Dead, like somebody go get me Lucille. You know what I mean? Like I'm killing cats out here, man. But you know, I like it. I like it for the game, and I like it because you can't always predict or think how people are going to be in their lives. And I think that's what I love about sports so much is that when you least expect somebody's personality or twist in the storyline, it can come out of nowhere. And for him to put that out there, like you got to keep in mind, there are people connected on the other end of that comment. Like, think about that. He made a comment earlier in the year, basically was like, look, the only person comparable to my game that I even look at is the other dude that does the State Farm ads with me and Patrick Mahomes. I'm not really looking at nobody else as being comparable with their body of work.
And tell me where he lied. Did he lie? No.
Bruh. So my whole thing is he didn't put every quarterback, like forget Justin Love, right? Jordan Love. Exactly. Right? Exactly.
Forget him. You forgot him.
I didn't forget his first name. He didn't put every other quarterback out there except Patrick Mahomes is basically saying, like, know your place, stay on your level because there's levels to this, man. I like that because then you always got the other side of it. You got Russell Wilson in Seattle playing with the same type of attitude. Like, I've been disrespected for too long. I don't get MVP votes. I'm going to make it so y'all can't avoid this. You got Lamar Jack doing what he's doing. And it's kind of like, okay, that whole Kansas City game was a little, we saw a little kryptonite come out, but did we? I don't know. We don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's some killers out here. Big Bendon came back strong. He's showing his tail in Pittsburgh right now.
Josh Allen,
your boy Allen in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Man, they talking about, he's a running back that can throw. Bruh, he balling. So, I like it. I like where the league is right now, and I like where the quarterback's position is right now because you got dudes like they ain't afraid to say it. Like Russell Wilson said, I'm going for the MVP award. Like, I want that belt. I want it. Like, Cats is out here they putting it out there. Like WWE style. Like, let's get it. Like, I'll meet you in the ring. Player, like, I like it. I like it a lot.
Oh, I love it, dog. And I think it's so good for the game, especially when you look at we come into it as fans with expectations. And we didn't even know what to expect when we saw COVID hit the pandemic status, number one. Number two, we all wonder whether or not if we are going to have football. And so now I look at from the start of training camp all the way up now, coming upon the first quarter, ending the first quarter of the season. Do you think the NFL/NFLPA have enough good protocols in place to have the season to be able to be completed?
So far, I think they do. And listen, they talking about ratcheting up the fines and how they regulate different things because maybe people are getting a tad bit too comfortable, bringing people into the facilities that aren't, tested or approved to be there, different things like that. So I think so far they've done what they've needed to do in order to get here. But then now you got a couple breakouts taking place, with big name guys like Cam and then, you got Gilmore that he showed. I don't know what the future holds for the entire season. I hope it holds steady because, I'm a high school football coach out here in California, and a lot of what happens with college and pro will dictate what happens with the CIF out here in California. So, true. I mean, just that's on a personal level, but on the scale level of the National Football League, it's almost impossible to say if they've done what they've needed to do or not, because we've never experienced something like this ever in the history of what's going on with us. Well, they'll say the crisis back. What was that? I want to say maybe it was polio or something like that. It was something out there that hit before that we came back from, but I ain't never heard. Not in our lifetime have we dealt with something like this. So not in modern day football have we dealt with something like this. So I would assume that they're doing the best that they can, just based off of the sheer amount of money that they will lose if they don't execute it the right way and get through it. So. So far, I'd say so far, so good. And if you can replicate or even get better from what it is that you did to make it through the first quarter of the season, then you would assume that you're going to have to do that for the next three to go. And then it's like kind of trying to figure out, what do you do for the playoffs? What do you do for the Super Bowl? Mm-hmm. How will that look? There's just so many things that they got to figure out and work through. And but I mean, I would assume it's going as well as it could possibly go, because there hasn't been any tremendously complicated deals to have to get through. This latest one with New England is probably the biggest situation so far, and then having to reschedule it. So my question is, if you get into a situation where you got to start rescheduling multiple games, how are you going to be able to do it? But I will say this. Monday night, you tell me, y'all football fans too, I enjoyed having the double header. Like I was kind of pumped up about it. So there could be advantages to it, but as far as them handling it, I think they're handling it as well as they possibly can at this moment.
I think the crazy thing, and I pose this to both of y'all, my thing is this: you're dealing with something that, to your point, that's unheard of. We never dealt with it in our lifetime, right? But as a profession, as your job, the protocols that are coming into place. Now you're saying teams can't gather and players can't gather outside of work. How you gonna tell me what I could do when I'm off the clock, when you're not paying me for the stuff that I'm doing off the clock? That don't make no sense to me.
That's the biggest complication of it all right there. That's you hit it right there too. That's the one element that could derail the entire season, is if guys aren't responsible enough to stay pretty much quarantined until we know exactly how to go about handling it. That's what you're going to run into. And it's not difficult to contract it. So that's the thing about it. Like, it's like, I'm go get me something to eat tonight. And you go out, you could get it that quick, just being out amongst other people. So, and depending on what the interaction may be. And so, it doesn't have to just be based off of contact and all that different things. Is just being out and about. And I think that's the first thing that came to my mind when I started seeing that people were coming up with COVID, was people just aren't going to go stay secluded for a lot of different reasons. They just not going to do it. So how will that work? And so we'll see.
Brian, and so I think you hit on a key point earlier when you said, when you look at the NFL, they do a great job as far as how they lead. And you look at the waterfall flow of college, high school football, going all the way down to Pop Warner. They look up to the league as far as seeing what is the standard and what is the way that we're able to do it, and also keep guys, players, staff sane while doing it. You created Warrior Woke. And I thought it was interesting when I first copped a little piece of it to be able to see it. But I would love for you to explain more. What is Warrior Woke and how can people become more involved?
Yeah, so Warrior Woke was it's a brainchild. I've mentored kids for the last 13 years of my life, like on a consistent basis. And mentoring for me was more or less using the game of football as credibility to enter into these young people's lives and help build their identities, help build their characters, and just how they felt about each other, how they felt about themselves, and just approaching life to be more specific and more intentional on what their success and their wins and different things would consist of. So I felt like I was missing something by just training physically and having conversations. So I ended up partnering with a company called Truesome with a guru named Rod Harrison, whose dude is a freaking phenomenon in terms of understanding habit building and just going through digital programming that actually builds you up to be intentional instead of unconscious. So like take, for instance, while y'all were playing, when you were coming up and you were playing, most of the things that we did was truly driven by unconscious movements, right? Like we just knew to go out there, play full speed, use some heart, and hopefully everything works out. But imagine if you were going through a program that actually opened up your mind and challenged your mind to say, okay, I'm intentionally going to do this. I'm going to intentionally think this way. I'm going to intentionally approach it that way. Building your goals, your approach to the games, like how I perform in the game. How do I feel about it coming out of the game, especially in the classroom? How does that carry over into academics and how you view yourself in the world of academia? So it was something that was truly important to me, and to have a resource to create a program where we can build the identities and shape the habits of people at an earlier age. You know, the whole saying of it's easier to build a young man than a young person rather than try to fix a broken, older person. So that's kind of the approach of it. And I totally butchered that quote, but y'all get the point of what I'm saying.
But we get the point.
Yeah, you get the point, right? But so this program is, if you go on warriorwoke.com, you can get into a program. Like it's a 45-day program. There's different days, different levels of it, but it's so important to build your mind. I think one thing that is very, very evident is that we talk in sports terms, we talk about the mental side of it, the focus side of it, and all those different things, but we never show how it's done. The habits that you build, all of the different things that take place, we never are taught how that works. We can go get training for the techniques of the positions that we play. We can go get the strength and conditioning. We can go get the dietary aspects of all these different things, right? And they have all of those things available to you, readily available to you. In most cases, in every college, at high-end high schools, sometimes even in youth leagues now, and definitely in the pros. So why is there not an attention to detail of the mental and emotional development and care of athletes? And so that's what Warrior Woke represents. It's really, for me, it's my passion to create something that long lasts the games, right? Once we're done, we don't do behind the mask podcasts. We don't create our own stuff. We don't take what we're able to do and apply that in real life application after we become civilians, right? So for me, it was important to create a platform, a safe platform where parents and players, athletes, and supporters could have a safe place where they could be vulnerable and go through conditioning and development so that they can be more intentional with what it is that's taking place, from brand building to getting recruited to you name it. the whole list of things that you need to have those small nuances to have the success that you're seeking in your personal self, so that you can, obviously put your best foot forward in whatever it is that you're doing.
It's amazing, man. And you talk about the strengthening of the mental as you do the physical, but with your everyday walk, with sports, with life, you physically break down. So how important is mental rehab as it is with physical rehab?
I appreciate you asking that, man, because the idea of mental rehab not being as synonymous with physical rehab is really, it's mind-boggling that we're in 2020 and mental emotional rehab is not synonymous with physical rehab. So if you think about it, if you tore your shoulder up and within that process, everything is mentally and emotionally driven. So the doctor, the emergency room you go to is all based upon the mental and emotional. The surgery that you get is all mental and emotional, right? The rehab that you get is all mental and emotional, and then it's done. You totally forgot about the physical aspect of it, never addressed it, never fixed it, did anything. But mentally and emotionally, you're prepared and you're ready to go back to doing what your normal habits, normal daily deal is, right? Does that sound right? It sounds weird. So it's the same exact thing when you think about it from the opposite side. We always address things from a physical. The minute we get hurt, it's physical. Go get a doctor's assessment of what needs to happen. Do you need surgery or can you heal by just going through physical rehab? Then you get the rehab or you get the surgery. The surgery fixes, corrects what was been injured, and then you go through the rehab process. And in that rehab process, there is never any mental rehab that takes place. And we always talk about guys that, like, did he come back too soon? Or, does he have confidence in the body part that was injured or hurt, whatever sport it may be? There's always that question. Are they milking the injury? They don't seem to be doing things. Why are they not coming back? Why won't they come back? Well, if you took the time to address the mental injury, the emotional injury that took place, then now you have an opportunity to understand where they are really, not where they are physically, but where they are totally. And then now you can address it the right way. But so many times in sports culture, you're alienated when you're injured, right? You feel like a ghost, like you're not even important anymore. And you come in, you do your physical rehab, and then you get out of the way, right? Treatment is only physical. Mental is only addressed when we become a problem, right? We acting out, we go do something crazy. Okay, now you got to go get mental therapy. Now you got to go get mental rehab. And you're in trouble. It's like, we're watching you. Like, we're going to help you, but you got to make sure you do these segments or these the whole mental routine of it, when that should be a part of it. You should be assessed. Like, think about how nice the training rooms are on colleges and at pro facilities. The two nicest places are what? The weight room and the training room, right? Well, why isn't there a training room for you to be mentally fixed, mentally rehabbed, right? You should get assessed the same exact way that you get assessed when you have trainers on payroll that are there just as much as any other coach, if not longer, to make sure that you're taking care of the physical injuries that happen. But there's nothing there for mental. It's weird. Yeah. That's weird, right? Don't y'all think that's weird?
Totally. It's totally crazy. And it makes sense even when you simplify it from that aspect. And I think so many times we're quick as a culture, or whatever culture that you're in, we're quick to try to always advance. How can we advance? How can we move the needle on increasing the bottom line? From a physical aspect, how can we get guys in here to be able to turn it over? But we have a strong tendency to forget, if you're not mentally sane, there's no way that you can advance and move the needle moving forward. And I think most times a lot of corporations and a lot of people who are higher up in the chain, they have that stigma, the old stigma, which I'm so glad that you're addressing now, that if somebody go see and have some type of counseling, if you talk to anybody, now that used to, something is wrong. It's looked upon as a form of weakness versus, nah, man, this is part of the puzzle to be able to increase the bottom line and help people be even better people.
You know, it's one of those things where it makes you question how expendable we are as commodities, right? If you're not going to really invest in that aspect of it, you know, and it takes you into a whole nother conversation, which is a bigger conversation. But when you're looking at the concussion situations and dealing with the CTE and guys taking their own lives, a lot of times, you know, we've gone through a lot of programs, and I've seen you guys in the programs as well at the NFL and different things like that, where we get certified to understand one another and to be able to address one another and to be able to assist one another. And you start to realize how alone we feel when we're not in the game. You get so removed from the game that you just, man. And it almost gets to the point of where when you get that deep into being a civilian and nobody can recall the greatness that you were when you were in the game, you get to the point of where it's like, what's worth living? Like, why is it worth living? But you know what? Maybe if we were rehabbing and developing our minds and our emotions as we were going, that transition out of the game leads to you being such a greater influence than what you even were when you played the game. But that's a belief. That's an understanding. That's using different parts of your brain. That's not using the same part of the brain that you use when you're preparing yourself to go hit somebody 100 miles per hour. It's different. So, and you have to consciously, the same way you have to consciously prepare yourself to go do what you did when you played the game, you have to be consciously preparing your mind to guide your body and your actions in your everyday life as well. Like, I don't want to just do physical rehab just so I can be able to play the game today. I'm doing that physical rehab so I can actually be able to walk when I'm done playing the game.
True.
You know? So it's the same thing with the mental aspect of all of this. You should be mentally being healed and mentally being rehabbed, just like you're being rehabbed for the physical aspects of things, so that you can be prepared to transition into doing other things in your lives. And it's crazy because you can see the guys who, whether it's unconscious or consciously, you can see the guys who have been in that frame of mind and how they transition after the game versus the guys who don't. It's such it is a glaring difference in how we operate. And, you know, it's sad and it's unfortunate because there are going to be plenty of casualties based off of the lack of attention to rehabbing our minds and our emotions the same way we rehab our body parts, man.
And to your point, when we talk about this, and how former players go through this depression and how they deal with life after the game, you got to think of it when we started playing when we were kids, right? We developed this love for a game. We became good at it. And if you do anything from a young age, well into your 20s, it becomes part of your fiber, it becomes innate, right? You get paid handsomely once you're a professional to do what you want to do. You still get that adoration from the crowd, the roar, people telling you you're the best. You get pumped full of modern medicine when you're in the league. But when you're done, you no longer get the modern medicine. You no longer get the adoration from the crowd. You're no longer paid handsomely. It's still innate, but you're not doing it anymore. And all you're left with is the love for the game.
And that's all.
It's feeding that love and those memories. What is feeding? So to your point, that mental rehab, you 100% on point with that, bro.
That's my campaign. My crusade, my campaign is to raise these babies up to have the understanding of who they are so they don't fall into the traps that are out there for them. And there are so many more with social media and everything now, is to build a strong identity. Like, it's okay. Like, when I was growing up, it wasn't okay to be cool with the smartest person in the classroom. Like, we called them names, and those names aren't even appropriate in 2020, right? And we would flocked to those who represented the old dogs or the Canes or you know whatever, the Doughboys.
Yeah,
we didn't really our identities didn't really say to be close with the Indian kid that was sitting in the back of the room or the Asian kid. And if our identities are better and we understand that your circle of influence is what's most important in connection to your identity, then you're going to hang around the person that's getting straight A's. Like, I'm going to go sit with them at lunchtime. We're going to sit and talk. And you know what's interesting? LeBron James's model is so phenomenal in a sense because he took his boys and I grew up with them and they were a part and he empowered them to be what they are. But imagine if LeBron James and his homeboys had Warrior Woke, where they were taking their mindsets and they were actually intentionally like, you're going to be the lawyer. You're going to be the product inventor. You're going to be the financial advisor. You're going to be the money guy. Like, all of these different things you can identify with the right mindset and with the right understanding of who you are at an early age. And I'll tell you how I know, because you see it take place in sports. You see it take place in crime, right? How many of us been able to see these babies are the ones that's out here organizing street soldiers, foot soldiers, and all that stuff? They're the one that's organizing the movements and all that stuff like that, this, that, and the other. So you have the know-with-all to understand what it is that you want to do, but you're unconsciously chasing after something that you think validates you because you never had the development and the understanding to be intentional with what it is that you're doing in your life. And it continues on. Now we go from being those young bucks that do it to being old heads that live in that as well. And it's worse when we're older because you're bitter and you're frustrated and you're not successful. So now you acting out as an adult. Like, we got to change that. It's something that really I'm passionate about.
Yeah, no question, bro. And you're spot on with it. And I think your mission statement covers it when you look at Warrior Woke. So we definitely want to send everybody that way. If you don't know about Warrior Woke now you will, because you pumping out some great stuff, bro. And
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. And before we let you go, it's imperative that I ask you this, because you have a wide lens when you look at the game off the field as well as on. I see a lot of inside linebacker play. Mm-hmm. The majority, I think a lot of it is mediocre. We still have a few guys. I just think of like Patrick Willis. He's not there. Luke Keith, he left the game. And so now we got the good old captain, Bobby Wagner, still holding it down in the middle. Who are some of the guys that you look at that may even come close to resembling your game, or even maybe your top five? Could be a two-part answer.
I mean, I think our game, the way we played is almost, that's dead and gone. You're not even allowed to play the way that we played. It's too physical. But I do like the way, it's funny. D Brooks was ahead of his time. Yeah, I always tell people D Brooks was ahead of his time. He didn't get the notoriety that Ray got because he didn't play. Ray is our game, Takeo. Like, we'll rip your head off. We're gonna go crazy. We're gonna thump you. And we're going to let you know that we did it and we're here. And that was really what drove our era. Derek Brooks tackled you. He didn't hit you. He was a tackler. He made interceptions. He did things. He basically played like a secondary guy, a safety at linebacker. And that's a lot of what you're seeing today with linebackers. Linebackers today, I like the linebacker I'm not great with names, but I like the linebacker, that middle backer for the 49ers. I think he gets after it.
Fred Warner.
There we go. Warner. I like Fred Warner. I like the kid in Indianapolis. He moves around. I like seeing how they move now more so than how they are at the point of attack. You know what I mean? Because guys are tackling now versus hitting. So I like Levante, David out in Tampa Bay. I think his game is.
I like his game
nice.
too.
Yeah, I like his game. I like the kid in Pittsburgh, Bush. I like Bush.
Yeah, Devin Bush.
I like all the Pittsburgh linebackers, and I'm kind of like I'm biased because I'm from there. But the tradition of linebacking in Pittsburgh continues on. I think Bud Dupree is a nice pass rusher. I think T.J. Watt is a nice pass. I just love the way they build their linebacking cores in Pittsburgh. So, yeah, I mean, I think Isaiah Simmons is going to be a dog. I really do.
In Arizona.
Oh, yeah, in Arizona. I think he's a hybrid type of guy in the way that he plays. So I wouldn't say that I would compare any of these new school type of guys to the way I played. But I'll say, you know, in the evolution of the game, it's kind of interesting to see. It pains me to say it, but these new age linebackers are more athletes, more athletic than what we were. And it's like, well, how is that? Like I ran a 4.4 coming out. You know what I mean? And I had a 42-inch vertical coming out. And some of that stuff is freakish. But then I'm like, Micah Parsons, one of my babies that's coming out of Penn State that is going to draft this year. Oh, y'all going to love him. But he's a tackler. I love him
already. I like him.
He's a tackler. He's going to tackle you. He's not going to thump you. But his explosiveness is crazy. Like he's posting 4.39 electric 40s, man. And I've seen
Come on, man. 4.39?
And Isaiah Simmons did the same thing last year. You know what I mean? These guys they're athletic on a different level than what we were. And that makes it interesting to watch where the evolution of the position specifically is going to go.
Bro, appreciate your analysis, man. Listen, dog, anytime that you want to come back on the BTM podcast, bro, you just hit us up and let us know. If you don't, we gonna hit you up and make you come back on.
Shouts out to Camille. Love you, Camille. Hey, look, y'all, whenever, you know that, bro. And congratulations on the Hall of Fame bid, bro. It's a big deal, man. Super big deal. So you're deserving of it. Believe you me. You played the game the way it was supposed to be played. You've been an ambassador of the game the way it's been supposed to be handled. And you know what, to you too, like, you know, both of y'all are great ambassadors, great representation of what we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to handle things. That's an inspiration to not only the younger generations, it's an inspiration to us that was in the wars together out there with y'all. So y'all keep doing what y'all doing, man. This is a great podcast and I love what y'all doing. So just keep doing it. So whenever y'all need me, you know, I always make myself available.
My boy.
Appreciate it, bro.
Yes, sir.
100,
yes,
my
sir.
J. I appreciate it, fam.